Hi, my name's Richard Bagley, and I've been a home brewer for 30 years, ever since I got a copy of this book in 1993 or 4. And one of the recipes in this book, all those years ago, was Bass. Seen some hammer since then. We live in mid Staffordshire. We're only half an hour from Burton, and people around here just love Bass. There was a time in the 90s when every pub was Bass around here, either a tied house or a free house that just sold Bass anyway. And there's still a lot of people that love Bass. Now, homebrew wise, I've brewed loads of beers over the years, all the new styles, all the old styles as well. But Bass is a beer that I've never just quite been able to replicate to the satisfaction of my brain trust and people that come round and try my homebrew beers. So this is going to be a deep dive into Bass and also into the Burton Union system. We're going to try and make a Burton Union set to homebrew on to see if that improves it. And we're going to try and improve and tweak the recipe to get a perfect pint of homebrewed Bass. Right, so here's my rough idea of how we could put a homebrew scale Burton Union set together. I did mention that it's at the larger end of homebrew. My brew length is 1 American barrel, which is just under 120 litres. So 6 pins, which are about 20 litres, is about 120 litres. And so I've got some stainless steel pins here, and we'll need to find some kind of tray like this to put on the top. And then we'll have a spout coming from each barrel, curved over. As the beer ferments, it'll froth up the pipe, and then froth and yeast and so on mixed with the beer will go in the tray. The yeast will settle on the bottom of the tray. Now it needs to be able to run into a smaller tray, which then feeds it back through pipes and then probably through the taps in the barrel to get back into the cask. So as it goes around the process, the beer is cleaning itself of the yeast, and you can harvest it for reuse as well from the top. The Burton Union sets that we've seen, for example at Thornbridge, use oak casks, but they do say that it's not because they want any flavour from the oak, it's just because of historical reasons, that was the only way you could make a big vat when the system was built. So I'm happy with stainless steel. It'll be much easier to clean. We also need to elevate it off the floor onto, say, this table, because then we can gravity feed the beer into casks or whatever we're putting it into at the end as well. So we need to build some kind of framework out of plywood to hold the casks together, hold the trays and the pipework and everything. So it looks like we're going to have a look at the using the CNC machine at work and cut some plywood out. Easier to do it that way. Right, on the table in here is everything we need to plumb the Burton Union system together. Decided after a bit of thought to use 22mm speed fit pipe, wide enough to not get blocked with bits of yeast and so on. Easy to put together and crucially easy to take apart for cleaning, so you can just dismantle the whole lot in between batches and clean it easily. For plumbing, you're supposed to put these inserts in to strengthen the pipe so you can put olive joints on and so on. I think I'm going to try and leave them out because there's no pressure, it's just gravity fed, and it's just another crevice for dirt and things that will make the beer go off to linger. So I'm going to try and just slot these together like that, and then we can pull them apart like that and clean them. So better get this lot assembled then. So as I put the rest of this pipework together on the Union set, remember that this pipework going back through the taps is for how the beer returns to the casks in the set, and the beer comes from the top tray. Well, the top tray is fed by sort of spouts coming out of the top of the casks, curved round and into the top tray. And so when the beer froths up, it will fill the tray with frothy, yeasty beer. The yeast will settle and it'll run from the top tray, the larger tray, into the smaller feeder tray, and then back round through all this pipework into the casks. So we need to make these bent pipes that come out of the top. I've got some stainless steel pipe. I haven't got a pipe bender, but I do know a man who has, and that's Arms at the farm next door. So we're going to go and see him, but first we need to prepare a highly detailed specification and possibly drawing for him to work to.
Do you want it to come down 90 or do you want it to come in the triangle?
So we'll leave Super Plum to get on with his jobs, whilst we ask some of my brain trust what they like about Bass. Right, Matt, what's good about Bass?
Bass. It's pretty creamy, isn't it? Tasty. Sticks to the glass. Hell of a beer. But it's got them unknown properties, which, depending on the day, are good or bad.
What are they then?
Well, tend to, for me personally, vocalise my inner monologue, which sometimes gets me in trouble. But I do like a Bass.
Ian, what do you like?
You've had one though, it's trying to stop's the biggest problem. Next 3 or 4 go down the tree, don't they?
So it's Moorish.
Yeah, very Moorish.
Brian, are you a Bass man?
I am trying not to drink it, but I can't help myself. But you always know it's going to get you up in the morning.
Say no more.
5 pints of Bass. 5 pints of George's beer for his breakfast. At 6:30 in the morning. He's been there since 4:30.
With his breakfast or just for breakfast?
Just for breakfast.
Lovely.
There's an assessment.
And he'd work in George's all day. And then he'd go home and have his tea and then go out at night.
Be ready for a drink while
He's got a belly Bass has got Black in Ireland, hasn't he? Some probably went to. And whatever, how many pints you drink and that. And he drank all these pints and he said, oh, we won't see him again. And he turned up the next night, ready for another session.
Says Billy Bass England, so many pints in 24 hours.
Yeah.
From one of his hand.
Did he? Our Anthony, Christine hung him up with milk cow. Well, the milk. Couldn't. When he got there, he says Roy was just fucking. He was up, but he was just running around useless, laughing when he got the pants off. He did. He couldn't milk the cows. That's on an early time. He always got up and milk the cows. Yeah.
And that was Bass.
You like last night. He right. I thought this is never right. Then he pulled the next pint and couldn't see through it. You could tell a mile off. And it goes. You can taste it. It goes like I said, watery, doesn't it? Yeah. It does go watery. Now what's to do?
You're right in what you say.
Yeah.
Good Bass. Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bad Bass.
People
It
say
takes
that
a
about
handle.
pedigree as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same as any beer.
But it's took years ago. Bass was good, and then for years he didn't want to drink it because they moved where they were brewed. It once Coors got it somewhere
To Scotland, no?
somewhere, yeah. And then the Get Marshall's brew it till it's been fine since, hasn't it? Really?
Right, so let's get a bit of an update on the Union set. This is where we're up to. So we've got all the pipes connected. We've got the 2 top trays here, the large tray, and then the feeder tray. We're going to need to Super Plum Arms at the farms bent these for me very kindly, and we need to get these to do this in the barrels. We've got some wooden shives and we're going to have to drill a hole in them. I've got a drill bit, but it's too fat, 15mm, to fit in my drill, so I'm going to have to take these and use a pillar drill at work, I think. So once we get those in, we'll get the pipes in, and then we need to think about how we're going to control the temperature. We really need to check the temperature of each cask and cool or heat it to keep it at the perfect temperature. Otherwise it could romp away, it could warm itself up when it's fermenting, or it could get too cold and stop working. So I thought about trying to fit a probe through there. I don't think there's going to be room because we're going to have to put a cooling coil through there, which means 2 holes, which I thought we could use some of this 3/8 John Guest pipe. Just do a simple loop inside. So we think, and this got this idea from Thornbridge, that we can maybe put a temperature probe up that pipe and down into the beer, or just have it near the exit so it takes the temperature of the froth. We'll have to experiment with it. And then we should be able to create some temperature control, probably external heating, and then use this for the internal heating, cooling coil. So I'll report back when we're a bit further. So this is the last homebrewed Bass. Called it Basic Instinct, and it's nice, but is it anything like real Bass? So if you go try Bass down the pub, it's got first thing you notice is that when you smell it, you've got a sulphury aroma.
I'm going to answer you straight away, Rich. No, the head's too light.
Yeah,
And it's too sharp.
creamy head on Bass, isn't it?
It's too sharp a taste.
It's too sharp, yeah, it's too hoppy. It's got the maltiness, it's got colour,
It's got
really.
the colour, it's got the body.
It's got too much. Real Bass
It's not smooth enough.
gives you a smooth, sweet taste to start with, and then when you swallow, you get the bitter aftertaste comes in, and then you get things like nuttiness.
It's a nice beer, but it's not Bass.
Exactly. So what do we change about this beer to make it like Bass?
It's got to be smoother. It's got to be creamier.
Yeah,
It's got to be
definitely
clean.
creamy.
This is bottled, so it's fizzier. It's not through the hand pour and the sparkler, so it will be creamier.
I don't dislike it.
It's quite nice,
Yeah, it is nice beer.
but not Bass.
But
And
not
that
Bass.
is the problem with home brewing Bass. So you cannot get it to taste like Bass. Make a reasonably nice beer, similar colour, probably technically similar bitterness, but does it actually taste like? It's obviously not as quaffable as Bass, is it, Ralph, if you're nursing yours?
Well,
When you get that sweetness when the first mouthful of Bass, when you smell it, there's nothing there really. No hop or anything, there's just a bit of sulphur. And then when you taste it, it's creamy, it's sweet, it's full-bodied. And then the bitterness comes later, and there's quite firm bitterness. We're not achieving that softness at the beginning and that creaminess somehow.
well, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
We'll have to drink every mistake I make. Now we're on a mission to brew Bass. We're going to make loads of mistakes, and you guinea pigs are going to have to drink them all.
What can we do?
Iterations is this one.
Well, going back 30 years.
Of Bass.
This is.
Bass attempts.
I've been trying Bass periodically for 30 years to try and get it right, and I've never really thought, oh, that tastes like. So, what would I change from this to the next attempt, which we're going to do in the Union set? Oh, probably. I'm going to experiment by not doing a late hop, so it won't have any flowery hoppiness, no sort of hoppy aromas and stuff like that. It'll only be the bitterness. I thought is the nutty sweetness might be from some kind of sugar syrup that they put in it, like a barley syrup or something, almost like molasses. So I'm going to try doing something like that.
I mean, I have to applaud your dedication to replicating that, because 8 out of 10 basses that you're having in pubs are shit. There's bass pubs,
Yeah.
and when you get a great one, it's just nectar. So you're going for a niche of a niche, and I applaud that. It's mega. You know, even bass can be rubbish.
Indifferent or changeable or...
Exactly. So you're trying to hit a moving target.
And what did it taste like in the 80s? What did it taste like in the 90s? Because in the 80s, it was brewed on a Union set, early 80s. In the 90s, I think they stopped dry hopping it, putting little hops cones in the barrels.
You've bass without a Union set.
They can do it without a Union set. But
So why have you felt the need to go for a Union set?
Well, because it's there and it needs to be tried. Like we said, the first thing we said was this was a bit harsh. It was hoppy, or harsher.
But
would that soften it?
Not
The movement in the Union set.
not taking anything away from that beer. That beer is nice beer.
Nice beer.
I've managed it.
Mm. You
Somehow-
managed it at quite a lick.
Somehow I've managed that beer. But we all agree it's not bass. It's bass-ish. It's bass in colour. And you can take the bottle, be creamier through a sprinkler, wouldn't it? But
The thing, I think the reason for the obsession, in answer to your question, is that we've grown up here with in Mid Staffordshire, every pub round here was Bass, and our local pub still sells Bass today. Now, years ago, Bass did 800,000 barrels a year. Now they do 40,000 barrels a year, and there's there's various fan groups for it on Facebook, and the people all over Britain are saying, "Where's Bass gone? What's happened to it?" And I guess we're trying to keep alive a bit of proper Burton brewing culture.
and look,
Yeah.
I applaud that. And
Yeah,
sure you will. But bloody hell, if you've had a good pint of bass, there's not much else to touch it.
Okay, let's have a quick chat about the Bass recipe. The first thing to say is that nobody really knows the recipe for Bass. And I say that because some breweries do publish their recipes online and in books. And they do this because when they make them available to homebrewers tend to buy the real beer when they do a side-by-side comparison. And even if we do have the recipe from the brewery, it's unusual to be able to do exactly replicate any beer. And if 3 homebrewers did the same beer, then it would always come out slightly different in each case, due to small variations in technique, water, equipment, and even different factors such as altitude and so on. So the only way that we can gather together the Bass recipe is by research in books, online, and of course by tasting Bass and trying to make an educated guess as to how it's made up. So starting with my first ever brewing Bible by Graham Wheeler, he actually changes the recipe slightly over the course of 3 different editions. And but I'm picking up a couple of interesting things overall over the 3 books. First, he specifically mentions halcyon pale malt in one book, together with crystal malt for colour. And secondly, in the last edition, he drops the late hop edition or aroma hop edition at the end of the boil. So that's interesting because the last version of Bass I did had a late hop and it was a bit too hoppy in our tasting. So I've also looked at other books and online. This is the Real Ale Almanac, for example, by Roger Protz. That also mentions the recipe that I'm going to go with is halcyon pale malt, crystal malt for colour, which we'll get to about 19 EBC. I'm also going to use 6%, just a small amount of liquid pale malt extract to try and create that sort of sugar syrup, barley syrup old-fashioned edition that many big breweries used to do. So Challenger and North Down hops with no late addition aroma hops, and that'll give us a bitterness of 26 IBU. For the water profile, of course, we don't actually know what Bass do to their water in terms of adding or even removing minerals, so we're going to have to go with a standard Burton water profile, or so I thought. But in fact, there are more than one Burton water profile online, quite a few different versions. And if you delve back into the history, it depends from whether the Burton water was from a shallow well or over later years, as they were trying to get away from surface water pollution, they dug deeper wells and it changed the profile of the water and the mineral content. But we're going to go with this water profile. But one thing you can be sure of with the Burton water profile is it'll be mega high sulfates, and that comes from the gypsum in the groundwater under Burton. So we'll go with that for the water. For yeast, we could really use any English ale yeast. It'd be better to use one that's used to open fermentation. So a Yorkshire yeast might be good, for example, and a lot of old-fashioned English ale yeast. But WLPO 23 is specifically called a Burton ale yeast, so it makes sense to use that. Another alternative to get a Burton ale yeast is we can get a slope from Brew Labs, which is called a Burton ale yeast. And then another wild card that was recommended to me by Al from Burton Brewery is this Mango Jack's Liberty Bell yeast, it's called now, but M36. But apparently a few years ago it was called Burton Union. So that would also be an interesting one to try. But on this occasion, I'm going to go with WLP 23. Morning, bright and early, ready to brew. We've got our recipe for Bass all ready to try. And we're going to mash in a minute. And then we're going to put the beer, when we finish brewing, into a normal fermenter for about a day until it's obviously bubbling away, and then we'll put it in the Union set. So let's get cracking. Right, so that's brew day done, complete. The Bass is inside this fermenter. We're just going to leave it in there for about 12 hours till we know the yeast's got going. And here is the Burton yeast, WLPO 23. We've made a starter to get it going, and I'm going to pour that in now and then tuck him up for the night. And as long as he's bubbling away nicely in the morning, we can put it into the Burton Union set. So there's the finished wort, and look at the clarity on that, pretty good. Gravity's not bang on, it's just a point or so out, but I'm happy enough with it. I'm certainly pleased with the clarity. It's only 18 hours since we brewed the Bass, and we're flung into a crisis. The fermentation's bubbling far more vigorously than we thought, which is perfect really, but it means that we urgently need to transfer it to the Union set. But the Union set, it's not really quite finished. We've got the cooling ready, but we haven't insulated it. We haven't got the heating on at all. Temperatures outside are plummeting. We need to keep it at 21 degrees. And the Union set's full of sanitizer. I need to empty that, clean it, get it ready, and transfer it all over. So we better get cracking. Okay, the moment of truth's arrived. We're going to start filling it. I'm going to fill it from the top tray first to fill the top tray and the feeder tray up to the overflow, and then I'll just connect it to the corner. So let's give it a go. So here she is, finally in action, and the temperature controls set up. We've got heating and cooling on each little barrel, individually controlled from these sensors here, and these solenoids control the cooling, and you can see the heat bands there around the casks. So the top tray's got a lovely froth in it from the fermentation which is coming up these spouts, and there's a certain serenity and grace to the Union set as she does her job. And what are we actually doing here? Well, we're doing two things. We're mixing all the beer together and circulating it through the system into the top tray, through this feeder tray and back into the barrels. And the other thing that we're doing is we're exposing the yeast to the air, and this is going to create all sorts of subtle and complicated reactions that will change the flavour of the beer in terms of esterification and different flavours that will come from the oxygen being able to play with the yeast on top. Also, the yeast is broadly remaining in the top tray and not going back into the barrels, so we can use that to harvest the yeast and to clarify the beer as well. Right, we're 6 days in to fermentation. It's finished. It's at 1014. Looks like final gravity, a bit high perhaps, but it is what Beersmith predicted. And we've got the cooling on now. It's got it down to about 11 or 12. This is what the top tray looks like. We've actually already harvested yeast from that. I'll tell you why in a minute. And the feeder tray, you see the beer actually looks quite clear in there on top of the yeast. But what we've done now is we've turned this off to just keep the beer fresh in the barrels and not mix with the stuff on top. And we're actually going to now put it in these casks. and then it won't be long before we can drink it. Now, why have I harvested the yeast? And it was really nice. It sort of smelt like freshly baked bread in here, and there was quite a thick layer of yeast in there. So we've harvested that because I realised that if we're going to have this beer from the Union set and we're going to taste it, we need a control. So brewed the Bass recipe again and pitched that harvested yeast in. As you can see, after 24 hours it's absolutely going berserk. So we'll have one brewed in the Union set and one just fermented in this uni tank in a normal way, no pressure, just spun in at zero pressure. So then we'll be able to do a side-by-side tasting. So we've taken the top spouts off, top trays, tilted all the casks. So now hopefully we can just get the last bit out. And it was whilst we were cleaning the Union set that we realised that there's quite a lot of parts in it. It's quite complicated actually, and we totted them up and we realised that there's actually over 160 individual components inside the Union set. So it's a big cleaning job, but also there's just a lot of components, and I suppose broadly speaking it's things like this that remind you of the reason why Marston's have stopped using them, for example, and why generally commercial breweries don't. Then the day before the big tasting night for the Bass, we had a visit from the malt miller who wanted to come and film the Union set on a homebrew scale related to a project they were going to do at Thornbridge. So it was nice to have them round. We did give them a few tastes of beers as well before they went, and hopefully you might see a bit of me on the Malt Miller channel as well. But we had a great day, and it was nice to spend some time with the chaps. Here's Stiffo trying to use the Lucaside pour tap. Looks like he's struggling to start with, but he eventually got the hang of it and did manage a nice pour of this German Helles that we've got on draft. And 3 centimetre head is the official Czech pour, I think.
That's looking better then. Oh, I've got the bubble.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad. Hi, welcome to the cellar at Wheatlow Brewery. All the Bass versions are tucked up safely in the cellar now after brewing. We've got 4 versions to taste. So we've got homebrewed Bass done in the Burton Union set that we made. Then we've got a control, which is the same recipe but just brewed in a normal fermenter. And then thirdly, we took some of that normally fermented homebrewed Bass and we added a dry hop, which is what Bass used to do in the 90s. And then fourthly, as a 4th sample, we've actually got a cask of real Bass here in the cellar. So we've got some cricket bats ready with A, B, C, D on and some little glasses. We'll do a tasting where we can put the 4 beers side by side. I don't actually expect the homebrewed Basses to taste exactly like Bass, but what will be interesting is to see whether we think we can taste the difference between the Union set fermentation and the non-Union set fermentation, and indeed whether the dry hop makes a difference. And then, of course, we'll be able to choose which we think is our favourite out of the 4, including real Bass. So we're going to do that tasting night on a Tuesday. So this is how the beer poured. Lovely, thick, creamy head, right sort of colour, and lots of condition. Now, for tasting night, we had the 4 samples all labelled up A, B, C, D. This is B in this picture. And A on the left here is real Bass, just a touch paler than the others, but that was really the only difference. We didn't tell anyone which was which, and we gave them a questionnaire to fill out with 4 questions. Which is the real Bass? Which is the Union set Bass? Which is the nicest? And which is the dry hopped beer? And pleased to say that the Union set beer came neck and neck with Bass, real Bass, as the nicest beer. Generally speaking, people said it was really hard to tell between the different beers, which again, as a homebrewer, is great because you're sort of in the same ballpark as the real beer. And it was, I think, 70% couldn't identify which one was real Bass. So a great result and a nice night with some friends and family around to taste them all.
The concentration.
Thanks for watching. If you've sat through all that and seen it all, you deserve a medal. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment with any feedback. And just remember, it's frothing ale.